Welcome to Alan Automates, where I want to show you how to make your spaceships in Factorio Space Age much more efficient. And to show you what I mean, I have this spaceship here that I have designed that is based on a design from Nauvis with some changes. And one thing that bothered me is how much fuel it uses to get somewhere, and therefore how much time it takes for it to turn around to the next destination. So if we send this ship off to Vulcanus, we can see that it's going at full tilt, and we are producing more both oxidizer and fuel at a relatively healthy rate. These machines are all running at full tilt. But we are using a lot of thruster oxidizer and a lot of thruster. So let's have a look when we get to Vulcanus, how much is left and how long that took. So here we are, arrived at Vulcanus with about 4.4k of oxidizer left and about the same of thruster fuel. And we're now going to wait and see how long it takes for these to fill up. We produce 48.7 times 3 of each, and these should be running continuously. So 150 a second roughly, which is about 7 seconds per thousand. So to make 20,000, we probably need 20 times 7, so 140 seconds or so, just under 3 minutes. Let's check to see if that is correct. We've finished refueling at Vulcanus, and it took 2 minutes 48, which means that the total of 4 minutes and 5 seconds is what we have to beat with a new and better design. And here it is, a slightly upgraded ship that tries to hit a better spot on the performance curve of these thruster engines. So let's just try again and go to Vulcanus and see what happens. And as you can see here, we are not using very much thruster oxidizer, because the fuel consumption is only around 60 a second, 58, 57, it's even falling a little bit for each engine. Yet we're still able to go at a reasonable speed, a little bit slower than before, but with a substantially lower fuel consumption. And that comes down to these performance curves that we can see for the thrusters inside the Factoriopedia. And what I've been trying to do is hit this sweet spot here where we get slightly less thrust, but we also have a much higher efficiency of the engines than we do when we fill them all the way up, and much lower fluid usage. And so we should see the effect of that being that we arrive at Vulcanus a little bit slower, but that we'll have to spend much less time refueling. You can see here that the way this works is that there now is a pump here that pumps, only when this light bulb is on, fuel into the thrusters. And that is the entirety of what we're doing here. This works based on a little timer signal, and I will try to explain how that works in detail towards the end of this video. For now, all you can see is that we are making good headway towards Vulcanus, and it's hard to see that any of our fluids are being used up, because we're producing them as fast as we're using them in this particular run. And now we've arrived with full fuel tanks. So let's tally up the totals and see what that looks like. So it's clear that with the upgraded design, we spend roughly half as much time traveling and refueling as we did before. And with the value of E that I chose, which is 53, where we really starve the engines, we use so little fuel that we spend almost no time refueling, which of course also means that it's less dangerous to stay. You might want to tweak it a little bit if you want to stay somewhere in order to spend some time picking up or dropping off cargo anyway, but somewhere in that region seems to be a reasonable place to be. And so the way that it works, let me just zoom in here so you can see how it works. This pump is set to only operate if P is greater than 0, and the same for the other pump. And what makes P greater than 0? Well, most of the time it basically is this. When we are moving, M is greater than 0, and the timer which is this thing that counts from 1 to 60 continuously once a second, is greater than or equal to the efficiency value that we've chosen, which in this case was 53. What does it mean that we're moving? There's another little combinator up here that looks at the signals that come from this base station here. The platform hub can be told to read moving from and read moving to, and the value that you're moving from is 1 and the value moving to is 2. So if you're in orbit around somewhere, you're not really traveling anywhere, which means that the value is 3, as we can see here. And if you're traveling from somewhere to somewhere else, one of these values is 1 and the other is 2, and that then results in an m equals 1 output. There is one little additional niggle here, which is why I have these additional fuel tanks down here that are nearly empty, and that is that if there's no thruster, fuel and or oxidizer in the engines, it doesn't matter if you go in and click the button, the destination signals here remain 0 or 3 because it doesn't move. So that has to be a little bit of fuel in the tank for the spaceship to start moving, and so that is what this is about. It basically is a tank that is nearly empty. There's 35 thruster fuel in this, but not quite. And so I have this little decider combinator here as well that says that if either tank is empty, output a little P signal. And we can see what that does if I remove these thrusters. Now they're empty. You can see there's no fuel in them. And you can see here this light bulb, which is lit when P is greater than 0. Make sure that a little bit of fuel gets pumped into these tanks so that it ends up in the engines. It's a little bit of an annoying thing, but at least it works. And with that, I hope that you have learned something about your own spaceships. I will post a link to a blueprint on Factoriopedia with this particular spaceship so you can study the design in more detail, and I'll see you next time.